Hey, I want to invite you guys, if you've been listening to this podcast and enjoying this content and are passionate about protection, you should know that we have an entire library of all of the Protector Symposiums that we've ever done, hosted at protectornation.com. You can go there and you can download those and you can watch every Protector Symposium we've had to date there online, and you can learn protection tactics from some of the most elite trainers in the world from the comfort of your own home. I think you'll be surprised about how much content we actually have there. It's very, very, very reasonably priced, and you can upgrade your protection skills. Remember, protection is not all about the hard skills. 90% of it is all about the software, the programming, the way you see and move in the world to achieve a safer pattern of life. With that having been said, go to protectornation.com, join us there, and learn from the best of the best. Now, enjoy the show.
All right, so with this, when I roll up to a room, okay, we have this wall. From the outside looking in on this room, it could be a center fed room. I don't know what the walls do on the inside. So first thing I'm going to do, we have our fatal funnel right here. We have our threshold. I'm going to be doing that gaining entry, so step one. I'm looking at the whole threshold, looking around the perimeter of it. I'm looking at the knob, looking what kind of door it is, what material. Maybe it's a metal door, maybe it's a hollow core door, wood door, anything like that. And then as I move up to this door, if I do have a weapon, I want to keep the weapon in the fight. I don't want to be keeping it down, exposing myself. So weapon stays up, always in the fight as I move up to that door. Okay. Next thing I do, when I go to open this, gun stays in the fight, grabbing my knob. All right. If it's unlocked, I'm able to push this door in. When I go to push this door in, I want to use my elbow right here rather than grab it underhand. This isn't going to give me enough power as it would be overhand. So as soon as I open that door, I'm making sure I'm taking that step back out of the fatal funnel. And with my eyes, I'm looking through this crack right here, all right? So see this through this crack, right? I'm taking that step back, get a shot of this so you can see me through the crack maybe. Okay, I'm getting this little snapshot. Okay, as I do this is the start of my pie. So I look through that crack, I'm slowly starting to roll around the room, pieing into that room. Okay. Now, as soon as I get right here, I'm starting to enter this fatal funnel. I don't want to just jump out and totally expose myself to the potential threat in the area. So I still want to keep this slow pie. All right, I'm pieing. As soon as I get about right here, I'm going to load my feet up, start to enter this room. Okay. Once I'm here, I'm now cleared the immediate area. So I've cleared this immediate area, shooting my corners, checking all the corners, and then back, sweeping my sector in this room. Now from here, I need to check the dead space behind the door and behind the bar. So as I do this, I can either pin this door shut, all right, and keep my gun over here, or I can push my gun into this door, check it shut. Now I'll move over this way, and I'll pie off this dead space.
Real quick question for you.
Yeah.
Just in your movements, just people might have a question about, like, when you're coming up to this door. I know that people ergonomically want to do it a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how you're approaching this fatal funnel when it comes to like where you're managing your weight and how why you're setting yourself up like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I move myself up to this door, into the fatal funnel.
And we call it the fatal funnel because this is where you get shot.
Yeah.
That's a choke point.
Right, yeah, choke point, funnel point. So when I'm right here, a lot of guys you'll see will do this because they're pieing over here. My area, the most dangerous area, is going to be into that room. So I want to square my body up to where if I have to take a threat, he's running at me with a knife, hands, he's got a gun, whatever it is, my body's squared up to that room to take contact, okay? So I'm right here, feet are kind of squared up, I'm loaded, I'm on the balls of my feet, so if I need to get some energy, I can go. And then as I take this step in, balls of my feet, I'm not gonna build 2 feet right here, I'm gonna use just this 1 foot, drive into the room. Okay, so one more time. So as soon as I roll up, again, squaring my body to where that potential threat is. All right, loading my feet up into the room. Okay, balls at my feet.
And a lot of this is you want to show the least amount of your body to that room. Like right now, I've got my gun in that room, but like they're only really able to hit this stuff right here.
Right.
You know, so we're still using structure to protect yourself, keeping in mind bullets generally don't stop in these internal buildings,
Yeah.
right? So the difference between cover and concealment, you may know, but cover is something that actually can stop bullets, while concealment means they just can't see you, but they can like you can shoot through that bar if you need to shoot somebody,
Or the
right?
wall, or
the
drywall, or door.
all that stuff. So remember, it's really big that you use as much concealment as possible, depending on what type of threat we're dealing with. We're in Mexico. A lot of people go to Mexico. My brother-in-law hit me up yesterday. Hey, I want to go to Mexico. I'm like, on my 40th birthday. I'm like, cool. But I know there's a lot of things that people should know about traveling here in a vacation format. You know, how would you begin to talk to someone about coming down here? You know, like.
First off, I like telling people, number one, situations here in Mexico are dynamic.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before, but like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And some of that advice I would change.
Yeah. Times change.
We have 90% of new housing being bought up by Americans right now here in Tijuana.
Wow.
Which was on the most dangerous city on the planet. But now it's completely changed.
Wow.
So we're going through a process of renovation and basically gentrification.
Here we go.
You know?
That's how it starts.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
So dynamics have changed. I think
So would you say it's getting safer?
in some parts, Mexico is segmented. I mean, I can't judge the whole of the United States over my time in Baltimore.
Right.
Because that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Different parts of the U.S. are different. Detroit will give you some issues. LA will give you others.
Right.
Same thing in Mexico. Number one, I'd say you realize that things in Mexico are very dynamic. Your concept of normal and your Bill of Rights, or whatever you consider to be normal, has to change as soon as you cross that border.
Right.
Bribery is on the table.
Right.
Arming yourself and maybe using that weapon on somebody that wants to do you bodily harm, who may or may not have the police on his side, is on the table.
Where you can go after something happens and who you should call.
Yeah. Are you going to go to the police?
Right.
Or are you going to go to the embassy?
Yeah.
Running or fleeing an accident or a scene of a apparent crime like they do in the U.S. Something people really, this is a hillside of cartel-controlled territory. You should probably leave. I think one of the main things is for people to start figuring out what their baseline expectation is of the area they're going to travel to. So before you even travel to Mexico, what part of Mexico are you going to go to?
Right.
You can do this all open source. Just go on a search engine. I'd say 3 of them. Search engine will give you a different result.
Yeah.
So
be biased in some way.
Yeah. God bless the State Department, but their travel advisories mean absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah.
And all their warnings and all the alerts they put out are things that I can
work.
Yeah. But you know what isn't BS? Online forums of expat communities that are living all over the world.
100%.
Who speak your same language. Who
have
are
your experience.
Who made all the shitty mistakes as a new traveler you're going to make in that area.
Yeah.
So those are resources that are there, but just people never kind of really look into them.
Tap into them, yeah.
Finding an expat community and or a group of people that have traveled that area before that are part of your culture, that will know the questions that you might want to ask. That's a pretty valuable and powerful thing.
And the do's and don'ts that they learned on the ground.
Cultural do's and don'ts, money do's and don'ts. Should I carry pesos or should I carry dollars?
Yeah.
The dollar will take you longer in different places in Mexico, but it depends. You know, you'll pull out $100 bill in the middle of Mexico City, and they'll be like, "What are you doing?" You pull out $100 bill here, and they'll break it here in Tijuana. They'll break it for you.
Oh wow!
Because the people carry dollars and pesos because of the border. Different places have different things like that. So number one is try and develop a pretty solid baseline as far as where you're going, what's normal there, what's abnormal there, and who can you trust and who can you talk to in case something happens.
Something does happen.
So expat communities out there online, amazing source
for advanced work, kind of.
If again,
and even while you're there,
we don't have an advanced team when it's just us, right?
You're the dad.
So your advanced is going to be online, open source, geotag locations on social media. Hey, your family wants you to go to this tiger preserve. Cool. Open source the bitch.
Yeah, 100%.
Where is it? What's the town like? Who's the cartel member? Who's the cartel that runs the area? What history of violence towards tourists are in the area?
Exactly.
What's the drug of choice there?
Yeah.
Should I carry some Narcan with me? I don't know.
Yeah.
These are all weird questions that should be, considered. And as far as the baseline goes, the baseline is just not about danger and damage.
Right.
It's also culture. Hey, it might be insensitive for you to wear that whatever t-shirt right here because people here are really Catholic. That might be an issue, but what about my feet? You're a guest. Chill
There
out.
could be some iconography that clashes with the local religion or the local
or you might encounter people that have a need for something you use once and to throw away.
What's the flow?
Yeah, so obviously we have some training artificialities, so use your imagination. So we're gonna say that this is a bedroom, right? This is a night table, and we're just gonna say that this is the area where the weapon is stored. The weapon may or may not be stored within arm's reach. It's a very smart option to have a firearm if you're looking to respond to something dynamically when it goes down. It's smart to have it accessible and close. Having it far away and unreachable means you're really not armed or
Means
capable.
You're really not serious, is what you're saying, right? So, like, if a bad guy comes into your house with a firearm, you need to be able to produce yours within a reasonable amount of time.
That's right. And now we're asking of ourselves to respond with a fluid, clear mind under a high level of stress
That you're probably not used to.
Yeah.
One of the other guys that I train with, he's like, have you ever timed it? Like, have you ever just from your front door or from like the window, just look to see how long it would take for someone to just briskly walk to where your kids are, where your room is, and then time that against how long it takes for you to access your force multipliers, and just do the math and think about, just at least know the numbers on that.
That's right, 100%. So, a very smart option is to have the firearm close to you in a secured, safe. There's all kinds of biometric options out there. We're not really going to take a deep dive in that. There's the market now offers a lot. It used to be damn near impossible or really expensive. Now they make them very high quality and really affordable. And the ability to access that firearm in the dark without having to turn lights on and activate your area or make it seen, give away clues to folks as to where you are and where people are located. So first and foremost, always we want to have the cardinal rules of firearm safety, and we need to be really kind of intelligent of that. And the reality is you want to have a really high index of your index finger, meaning I don't just want, people say, well, let's take our finger and just have it outside of the trigger guard or on the frame. I want it high on the frame. I want it almost touching the top of the slide. Just because that exaggerates that safety rule, and it helps me understand that my finger is nowhere near the trigger. That's the equivalent of saying my keys are nowhere near my car. It is impossible for my car to turn on, right? So this is an on-off switch, if you will. So I want my my finger index really high on that pistol. The other thing is I like to have knowledge of the angle of fire with my pistol at all times.
Very important.
Even when I'm not shooting.
So always.
What I'm in general, what I'm doing is, and oftentimes, as instructors, as we're doing kind of walk and talks, we'll do things positionally with the weapon that we wouldn't do if we were actually in roll. But since we're stopping and talking, there's kind of an administrative action here. Is I want to take my thumb and I want to have it along my nipple line up really high, and I want my elbow towards the rear, almost as though I'm elbowing someone behind me, and I want some tension in my shoulders. But really the only thing I'm thinking about is taking this flexed thumb and just having it up on my nipple line, and my weapon is down, and my finger's off the trigger.
Yep.
And this way, I can have an understanding of, in general, where that firearm is pointed at, and if I needed to bring that weapon into bear, all I need to do literally is rotate that up to where now the side of my palm is pressed on my side of my body, and I'm looking for the heel or the base of this magazine plate to be driven into the side, not the heel, excuse me, not the heel or the toe, but the side of the magazine plate, and I'm driving that into the side of my body.
Right.
And I'm here now accounting through indexing
Right.
where my rounds are going. Now that is not, we're not doing extreme close quarter pistol shooting in this in this
Not
module.
yet.
We're going to be doing that in a separate module. But if I had to account for my rounds, and this was my threat, and I'm here, I know exactly where my rounds are going because my hips, my chest, my eyes, my head, everything is perfectly aligned. I've proof checked this with a live pistol on a live range on paper, and I can confirm or dispel my angle of fire and where the rounds are going.
Give me your fucking keys. Give me your keys.
Absolutely, no
Give
problem.
me your keys right
no
now.
No problem. What do you need, man?
Give me the fucking keys.
And out of roll.
Ooh.
You okay?
Oh, good.
Okay. So let me ask you something. Come over here, please. So we didn't role play this. He had no idea what I was going to do. You have experience, and he's not exactly the smallest person in the world, right? The guy's massive, he's competent, and he trains. Have you ever seen that technique done before?
Nope.
So what did you think, even though this is training and you have a blue rubber gun, of the idea that here you are dominating me, you know, with your presence, with your commands, you have a gun in my face, and next thing you know, you're actually in the actual vehicle in a position of disadvantage. I'm over you. I have a level of control on the weapon-bearing limb, and I'm simulating, because I don't want to hurt you, strikes to your brainstem.
Right.
What were you processing at that moment? This is live, folks. This is not rehearsed at all.
For me, it was just, what position I'm in. I'm in a position where I cannot get this gun into a usable. I was expecting to go for the traditional, break the wrist, go for that gun grab itself and get control of the gun. By controlling me altogether.
And what did you think of actually getting sucked into the car? Is that something you would have thought someone ever trying to do?
No, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. So what we do is we manipulate people physically to manipulate them psychologically. Now thank you so much, by the way. Here's where we go into the deep dive, and here's where we get in trouble as instructors and as students. Where's the gun pointed? What's the angle of fire? Where the gun is not pointed is my face, where I'm no longer going to be an asset to my wife, my children, and the next generation.
So let's say, hypothetically, if someone starts following you, or you believe you're being followed, you can do some surveillance detection route stuff where
some cleaning moves.
Yeah, some clean moves. So cross the street, speed up, slow down and post up.
Yep.
All things like that. Usually, maybe someone might just be walking, in your direction. But if you see them start to mirror your actions, when you speed up, they speed up. When you cross, they cross.
Pacing you.
Yeah, especially if that happens, a minimum of 3 times. If that happens 3 times, you got a solid pattern there, and you need to start figuring the next part of the action. Okay, eye contact. If you're making eye contact with people. Are they looking away like they got burned, called burn syndrome? I don't want to look at you. Or are they?
It's great, and that is a very distinct and funny thing.
Yeah.
I told the story about the guy that I believe was surveilling me that was going to break into my car after I went to the range.
That's right. Yep.
And
exactly.
I straight up, boom, looked at him and out. Now, you'll probably for sure be able to key in on this, but I think the best way to learn surveillance detection is to try to conduct surveillance on someone, right?
100%.
Because you realize how hard it is. And you know how you react to getting burned, so you know what to look for. And the second I burned him with eye contact, he was like, hiding behind the trash.
Oh, look, this guy.
And I was like, oh, yeah, you're not relaxed enough.
So that's an issue, if you got that kind of burn syndrome. But another bad one is if, you identify somebody following you and you make eye contact and it's that predatory stare where they're not giving you the head nod. You give them the head nod and they don't give you the head nod back. They don't smile, they just continue that. That's a very specific social cue. So we're getting to a really high traffic area and it starts to get really dense, you know, and going back to distances and proximity, you know, if you find yourself in a group, just know you're not going to be able to cover all those vantage points. You're going to have blind spots. So if you have the ability to have team members or family members or friends with you, you can build a little defense in depth, but understand you're not going to be able to cover all those angles. So we're headed towards the pier, and we're getting more shots of that later. If you want to position yourself the best, are you going to walk right down the middle of the pier, you know? Probably not, because now I have potential threats. Again, not trying to build paranoia here, but you have potential threats on your left side, right side, and front and back, okay? So I'd probably pick a side. Pick a left side, pick a right side, so at least you can cover yourself from the pier side. At least that's one side that I'm not gonna have to worry about a threat. Maybe a seagull or whatever, it's on a beach, but. So when you look at analyzing group behavior, and again, they might not have criminal intent, they might not be a physical threat, but I want you out looking at people analyzing the behavior. Oftentimes, if you have a group of people, you might have someone that might be the alpha in that group, the person who's in charge.
And you want to identify that guy.
Exactly. And it's a fun game. Maybe it is that threat scenario, and you definitely want to identify that, but maybe you're just playing a game. So you're ever out and about in Huntington Beach on the pier, try to figure out who's in charge. And you look at, you know, different things like mimicry, adoration, direction, and entourage, you know. So
mimicry, adoration, direction, and entourage.
Now you don't need all of these to develop that leader. But let's say you have a group of people all facing each other, and they all have their arms crossed, right? And you just turned the corner and you started observing them. You're not going to be able to really tell any type of mimicry, but psychologically, unconsciously, the people in that group will mimic the leader. So if you're watching them and that person puts their arms up and does some type of change in their behavior,
or like stops leaning on the wall and stands up straight,
whatever
everyone's going to kind of stand up straight probably.
Slowly you're going to see this cascade effect. It's not going to be like tag, they instantly change. But you're going to see this cascading effect.
Almost like a Simon Says.
Exactly.
Kind of. Right.
And so let's say you see that one time, it's like, all right, the first person did it, potentially could be a leader. If you observe them a little bit more, and then you see it happen again, and it's coming from the same, initiated by that same person, now we have a good idea who's in charge. And this is actually good information. If you're picking up this much information, be careful, because you can actually become the anomaly. If you're so hyper aware and you're doing the surveillance tactics, like Byron says, that wolf is watching you. So if that wolf starts to see the same indicators from you, they might lock into you. So be aware of that. Maybe not be so overt. Use those mirrors you were talking about. Use those windows, sunglasses, and reflections to get your angles, as opposed to, you know, staring people down or whatnot, you know. So don't be so aware that you become the anomaly, because that can draw unwanted attention
and escalate things. 100%. No, I dig it.
So as we're walking to these corners over here, we've left the pier area. We've talked about analyzing individual behavior. We've talked a lot about analyzing some group behavior and some other things to that nature.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't got no cash, brother. I'm sorry, my man.
What about your homework, man?
So I ain't got nothing on me, man.
Okay, well, sorry, brother. You know.
Perfect example of targeting. I don't know why, but he thought we would be some people to walk up and talk to, you know. Again, no value judgments. People falling on hard times, you know, but California, you got to be careful. But normally when you make the eye contact, they can tell. They can tell who's not from here, who's not from here. I wouldn't pick us out for a target, but.
Do you feel weird admitting that you have fear? And it doesn't have to be, again, if I ask, and this is great, I was on The Ultimate Fighter as a guest coach. My buddy Kieran Fitzgibbons, one of the best fight coaches in the world, he was the coach one season. He invites me in, and I've got 12 fighters in front of me. They all have cauliflower ears, they all have broken noses, they all got scars all over their face. They've been fighting for years. It was the year a few years ago where it was all these world champions vying for a spot on The Ultimate Fighter. And so they're in there fighting, and I come out, and I'm gonna do my standard talk on fear. I'm gonna talk about cycle behavior. I'm gonna talk about fear management. I'm gonna talk about the fear loop. So I start off asking, and I'm looking at these 12 gladiators sitting against an octagon, and I say to them, okay, who here has fear before a fight? And they're all like this, right? And then they start doing this. I'm losing the audience quick. They're like, right, crossing their arms and looking. And I go, none of you have fear. Now, I wasn't out of control. I'm setting them up. I go, nobody here has any fear. They're like, no, like one of the guys says, we've been fighting for like 10 years. You know, you wouldn't be here if you had fear. I said, none of you are worried that if you lose this fight, you're not going to get a deal with the UFC, and your wife told you, you might have to get a real job. You can't keep doing this martial arts shit. It's not paying for the house anymore. It's not supporting. This isn't what I signed up. Any of you guys have that conversation with your family, and they all would like this. All of a sudden, they all went from, I don't got any fear, to his eyes open, sat up. Anyone here worried that if they lose a fight and they get booted, that their dreams of financial security, maybe fame and fortune, whatever your dreams were, anyone there? And now they're like leaning into me. Do you guys understand what I did there? People confuse things very often because fear needs new management. There's a stigma just around the word fear. I'm not afraid. When you say that, it's because there's a level of your ego, your pride, your self-esteem that's connected to this idea that if I admit that I'm afraid, then I must be weak. So an interesting question is you know, when we're analyzing these things is, am I afraid to fight, or am I afraid to lose? Or am I not afraid of either? But these are the surgical layers of questioning. So I look at stuff, and I look at that mismanaged fear changes everything in our lives. It changes how we conserve energy and time, right? I mean, you probably have things that you procrastinate. You know people that procrastinate. And what does that do? The only thing in life that we can't regenerate is time. Everything else, you know, you can almost like recycle, right? Throw that in the recycler and it comes out as something else, great. We can renew that energy, we can do something with that. But you can't get back time. So if you're wasting time, and nowhere is time more important than during a violent encounter. So at the direct implication of what is the Protector Nation about, it's about making the right decision in a timely fashion, right? And how do we do that? Well, it's not just shoot, no shoot, you know, move the principal here, you know, oh, we're being followed, right? You know, like, what's our escape route? It's not, again, I'm making this cartoony like a movie. That's the easy work. That's the multiple choice stuff. What would you do here? Remember what I said in our first module, right? Everything runs through the brain. The mind navigates the body. So mismanaged fear creates that doubt and that hesitation. Mismanaged fear shrinks your potential in life with anything. Mismanaged fear means that you're not going to PR, right? That your personal record, right? So that could be deadlifting, that could be shooting, that could be your business development. If in the back of your mind you've got some erroneous belief system of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to make it, right? That's that false expectations appearing real. That's a great acronym to memorize. FEAR, false expectations appearing real. So when Byron and I were talking about what would be great for you all, what could I contribute? And while I've got a whole bunch of tricks in my bag, if you will, being facetious there, they're not tricks, they're skills that you practice and learn. I always tell people, if I had to only pick one of two things, physical skill set or fear management, I would always select the fear management. The reason I say that is no matter what you learn, shooting, knife, grappling, striking, evasive driving, all of that, the performance element, how you end up making that work, goes through a fear management filter, whether people realize it or not. So that I think the biggest contribution I can give to you, and I'm setting our goal and our intention right now in this talk, is changing your relationship with fear. How do we turn fear into fuel? Now, there's two types of fear, right? There's, and I'll get way deeper into this, but just like generically starting off, somebody says this is going to happen and it's happening fast. We get a fear spike. two things happen, and this happens for everybody. In fact, I'm going to share Customato, one of the most famous boxing coaches. He said the difference between the hero and the coward is what they do with their fear, both feel it. What does that mean? That means, and now he's a famous boxing coach, right? That means that a trained boxer sees a stimulus and goes, oh shit. The untrained person sees that same stimulus and goes, oh shit. The boxer covers and then throws a left hook. The untrained person turns away and gets dropped.
So hot zone, very dynamic situations, things are gonna be happening really fast. In my real world experience in the civilian world is different than in the military. You know, in the military, we have a lot of support. In the civilian world, you're on an island. If you're the only person who wants to do something, you're the only person who's gonna do something. People won't even call 911 for you. So just be aware of that. And also running into third-party situations. You know, you don't know, is it domestic? Is it, you know, somebody who's defending themselves and we're actually helping the attacker? You know, there's a lot of things to think about. So that's a hot zone where things are very dynamic. A warm zone, let's say we're away from the actual attack, like mass shootings happening, we're in a bathroom locked up. Freeway, we pull the body to the median. Running with the bulls is my favorite example. We pull them past the barricades, okay? So warm zones and hot zones can be fluid. They're going to go back and forth. If you guys seen the New Zealand shooting, he went into the mosque, he shot up a bunch of people. He came and he just was in there shooting for a while. Eventually, he left to grab another gun. And that he came back in and started shooting people as they were helping others. So just be aware that these zones are fluid, that they move in between each other. Because you can be in a warm zone and all of a sudden you're in a hot zone, okay? Finally, a cold zone's like, you know, you drop a knife and catch it in the kitchen, okay? Somewhere where we know, like, okay, not so much worrying about dynamic situations, just we need to help somebody who's hurt. So those are important things to think about before you even get into treatment, you know? Also, another thing to think about during like a mass casualty shooting or anything like that is, are you prepared for it? Do you have a gun on you? Are you willing to do something? Also, are you going to add to the chaos or are you going to help the situation? Because think about it, inside of a building, we have 3 CCWs trying to defend people. Do we know who's who? Is there some kind of international marker saying, hey, I'm not the active shooter? No. And also, we don't know, let's say we see an undercover cop, he has his gun out. Do we know he's a shooter? When we look on the ground and we see blood, there's a few things that we can identify: arterial versus venous. So what venous is going to be dark red flowing blood. So if somebody has a deep laceration and it's a dark red continuous flow, that indicates that it's a venous hemorrhage, okay? So arterial bleeding is going to be bright red and spurting. That's the stuff you see in the movies, okay, where it's spraying everywhere. It actually has a pretty good amount of pressure behind it. Also, when the blood hits the ground, if it's arterial, it's going to form these little that's the best description I can have for it, is just these little globs of blood. So that's letting you know that this person is having an arterial bleed. So those are the fast ways to identify venous versus arterial, okay? What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be doing a demonstration of how much blood you can lose, and we're going to show you what it physically looks like on the ground. So every human being, more or less, has about 5 liters of blood in their body, okay? So this is what a liter looks like inside of a bottle. And so with the first part, what I'm going to show you, all right, so how's that look? Let's say we walk in, someone's been injured, someone's been shot, someone's been stabbed. We come onto the scene and we see this much blood on the ground. What are you guys thinking? That this is a significant injury, right? All right, so the reality of this, that's how much blood you donate when you go to give blood at the Red Cross, okay? It's about half a liter of blood, okay? Is this a survivable injury? Yes. All right. So now we're going to show you what a more serious injury is going to look like. So just keep in mind that this is on plastic, okay? When it's on, you know, sand, dirt, grass, anything like that, it's going to sink in. Or let's say asphalt, okay? So it's going to look a little bit different when it gets on different material. How much blood does this look like? You would think that you're walking in on a dead body, right?
This first video is going to be about the gear associated with appendix carry and how you do that well. Every now and again, the pushback that I get from people is that, oh, appendix carry is not as comfortable as 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, which would be way behind you. The truth is, it's because you don't have the right gear. You haven't dialed in how to do that well. So I'm gonna give you some tips today. And then the reason why we always would choose appendix carry as a way of conceal carry for civilians is that it's a tool that's in front of you. It's much more manageable where you have to get hands-on with somebody. And honestly, there's a lot more performance as far as speed goes when it's in front of you as opposed to having to go all the way behind you. Going behind you, we have tons of video evidence at this point of people not even managing to be able to get the gun out, getting stuck because their arms are now disengaged from the fight because they can't do it in front of them. They have to go back there. So it's telegraphing you're going for firearms. You're not able to fight very well where your elbow is so disengaged from the front of your body. And if the person in front of you knows how to fight, your elbow's gone, right? They're gonna probably arm drag you or something like that. So important to learn how to do this well. If you're going to carry as a lifestyle like I do and many proud Americans do, I encourage you to do it from the front. Just dial in the kit so you can be comfortable and do it well and do it proficiently. And then with time, as you get better and better, I have a lot of content on my dry fire program on my website, myown.defender.com, and go to the dry fire tab at the top. There's a ton of content about how to dry fire correctly from the appendix position, from outside the waistband and stuff. If you don't know about dry fire, it's a way of practicing at home without having to use rounds. So essentially, your only cost is your time and not also the bullets associated or the ammunition associated with practicing live fire. You can do it at home, it's safer. Anyway, dry fire. We'll talk about dry fire maybe on a separate topic. So let's talk about kit. Arguably the most important part, I shouldn't say the most important, but one of the best things you can do for yourself is to get yourself a really good belt. This is a core belt. I like these guys a bunch, K-O-R-E, core belt. They are sturdy. They'll be able to support any weight of gun. I tend to carry full-size guns. I'll talk about why here in a second. So they have quite a bit of weight to them. And if you have a flimsy belt that isn't made for carrying, it's not going to do very well. Over time, it'll get eaten up, and obviously you'll print more. Printing meaning that you can see the gun underneath your clothes, like something like that, right? You have like some bulge under your clothes that makes it easier to spot that you're carrying, and depending on what state you live in, that's really, really bad. I have seen all sorts of craziness associated with drawing from the appendix position, people grabbing like the bottom of the garment, scooping all the way up, and then like putting their shirt all the way up to their shoulder, and like it looks like something like this, and then they go draw and whatever, and now their hand is having to come up from out here all the way to back down below the gun to grab it. Very, very inefficient, and you're doing so much work, creating so much tension in your body. It's completely wasteful, all right? So how do we do it more efficiently? Your support hand, whichever your support hand is, the one that doesn't do the shooting bits, is going to go for belly button in the midsection of your body. Notice I am not going east and west, but I'm going north and south at my belly button. If I just close my hand, you probably start seeing a little bit of the gun. I haven't even moved my garment up, but just the technique of midsection, closing the hand. Again, I'm guessing here, this is the longer shirt, like I said earlier in my video. Yeah, there it is. I don't normally carry a shirt that's 3 inches below my belt line, but this is the shirt that I have today, so this is the shirt that we're using. You can see the shirt, you can see the gun already, yeah? So if I then just take it to my sternum being where I clap my hands, where my ribs meet, all stuff. So if I go grab, close my hand, go to the sternum, the entire gun is clear. I don't need to go any further than that to be successful and efficient at drawing. Anything above that is wasted energy, wasted motion, which creates inefficiencies, and efficiencies result in slower times and all that stuff, right? So again, midsection, closing the hand, going to the sternum, then going to the gun. Now, if you would just start with that, just grabbing your shirt over and over again, just grabbing the shirt over and over again, just getting used to what that feels like and being able to do it very aggressively from all sorts of hand positions, right? No problem, boom, or I'm hanging out, boom, or Maybe I'm just like, at the park, oh shoot, something's going on, right? And I'm just going here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be all the way up here where I'm like almost choking myself and wasting all this extra time, all this extra energy. It's not necessary. And yet tons and tons of people will do that. Just beware of who you're getting your information from.
Okay, so let's talk about utilizing edged weapons. This is the human body. Now, I'm not a high-ranking knife fighting member. I don't claim to be. You can go to all your courses and classes. I'm experienced with violence. I'm not necessarily experienced with knife violence. I do see hundreds of videos of real-world violence weekly, which also gives me somewhat of a cursory education. And I train with lots of folks on this exact same topic. And what I've learned is that knife fighting is a lot simpler than some people would like to make it. And I think the cleanest and most pure lineage of knife fighting is in fact the prison system. That's where people fight. That's where people learn to knife fight. Primary consideration is here. How do you stop a human being? How do you stop a human being the quickest, right? And basically, from what I've understood and what I've seen work in the videos also that I'm about to show you, is the closer you can get to severing any of these close to the heart, the faster the target will be stopped. So coming in and making cuts here and here are very, very, very effective hits. And then you give that person bleed out time, relatively 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on a few factors like their endurance and their heart rate and things like that. That's going to speed up other major arteries down here to cut these big red ones. These are the arteries. These are the timers, right? These are the ones that cause people to bleed out in 2 minutes or less, 3 minutes or less. If they're, if they're in a struggle, it can go faster and faster. These big red arteries are what you want. The deeper the color of the blood, that's how you know you got the stuff that is going to end that fight and save your life more quickly. This box right here, this chest box, however, is really kind of your ideal spot if you can sink your blows in here, and of course the heart, and of course the aorta, I believe this is coming off the heart. These are the main spots where you want to attack. And this is the one thing I do like about knife fighting, is that it's quite simple. Yes, if you really want to learn how to like deploy your weapon and strike with speed, you have to practice. Like I haven't practiced sitting down deploying my knife in a long time. But in a life-altering, life-threatening encounter, like think about it, someone rolls up on you and grabs you. You can get your hands down to your waist belt where you may have a knife tucked in here. A lot of guys tuck knives in here. You can get your hand to your waist belt where your knife is stowed. You can get that knife out and you can start coming up through the groin, right? If a guy's on you and start coming up through the groin, if a guy's wrapping you up, you can maybe come up through the armpit and start cutting up this way, right? People talk about the sewing method, The main thing that I've understood and would want to communicate to you if you ever have to use a knife in self-defense is, which means they've probably got their hands on you, you're probably struggling to get free. When they're struggling to control you, you struggle to get to your knife, and then you go after these places on the human body, whatever's most available to you, right? And whatever is within your reach. One of the interesting things is that all of these targets from here down, you can reach if someone's grabbing you, and you can get to your weapon because it's on the lower half of your body. A lot of times you can get to those undetected, and you can sneak attack those. The targets upward from here, in many cases, especially like the throat box, you have to do a surprise attack, like a jab stab. But this, my friends, is actually a restraint that you can actually handcuff someone with and tighten it up on their hands and control them if you need to.
Got a little monkey knot in it. And if I need to slide this out and over someone's wrist, I can. And I can cinch it down on their wrist as well. So if I have to control a suspect and I'm out in public, I can tie them up, I can restrain them, I can put their hands together, and I can control them. So I carry this on me at all times because you just never know. You never know when you're gonna have to make a citizen's arrest. You just never know when you're gonna have to. I got a couple of these that I like to throw in my gear, but you never know when you're gonna have to make a citizen's arrest. You never know when you're gonna have to do one of these things, when you're sitting on an airplane and someone starts going crazy and they need to be restrained. Yeah, you can do it with a seatbelt, but if you have something designed for restraining hands, it's a lot more simple, and you probably might not be able to sneak your handcuffs on the actual flight, right? So a lot of veterans wear 550 cord around their wrists for a lot of reasons. This 550 cord just has some functionality. So these are the types of things with EDC, like what can you carry that gives you an advantage, right? Stand up and look at some things, right? So this is kind of my everyday kind of flow, how I look, toot toot toot, right? Okay. Let's see here, what else? You can see I'm printing a little bit there if I put my shirt in, but boom, boom. These are the weapons I'm carrying, right? And I'm going to show you how to do all that. Clear. I don't think you guys can see it, but it's clear. Trust me, I'm a professional. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about this. For my handgun, what I'm carrying and why. So what I'm carrying right now is a CZ P10S, right? This is what I call a t-shirt gun. So this gun is really designed to be really hard to detect on my body. I've got a magazine, 12 round mags. We're gonna talk ammunition later, hollow points, all those different things. 12 round mags here, which is a good magazine capacity. I choose 9mm because, well, you can carry a higher capacity of mags. So I almost always choose 9mm for that reason. And because I shoot a lot. I find a lot of guys that shoot 45, why you shoot a 45? I shoot 45 because they don't make 50, what I mean? Like, it sounds cool, but like, really a lot of those guys don't train a lot. When you're shooting, 2, 3, 4 matches a month, that's 250 rounds, $40 entrance fee, about 250 rounds per match. Like, you stop shooting 40, 45, and you get really surgical with 9. And the technology these days, got some boxes down, the technology these days, when it comes to your ammo, is good. There's a lot of things. I usually run black talons like these, Hydra shocks, things like that, when and where it's legal. But there are a lot of options in terms of what you can carry. The thing is, the best way, if you want to be, in the clear, and it's not even as much about legality as I think it is about making the police report before you do the deed, right? Write the police report before you do the deed. Carry the same thing that your local law enforcement office carries. Go ask police officers, hey, what ammo they got you guys running? I'm a CCW owner, and I just want to make sure that I'm, operating as to the standard and within the law as possible. So I just figure I'll just get whatever you guys got.
Crazy guys standing around in the neighborhood waving a knife around, but for the CCW world, it's generally, that leaving the grocery store, walking through a parking lot by ourselves, or just flat going up to the ATM and pulling out our weekly allowance. And then at some point, the dark shadowy figure comes out, confronts you, tells you to give you all the money, and it's generally met with an armed response, that thing that we work on a flat range all the time. And generally speaking, most people, when they think of that situation, they always win. It's always 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, or it's a standard response that they've worked on a flat range, and good form, they win. And that's definitely the bigger part of the battle is winning that. But what they're not expecting, or what they don't work on, which is a bigger problem, is that post-lethal force encounter discussion with themselves. They figure that they're just going to get on the phone and dial 911 and dispatch is going to handle that problem for them. And it can happen that way. But dispatchers aren't trained to do that. If you're by yourself and you call screaming frantically that you just shot somebody, they're just going to send deputies to whatever location you give them to respond to somebody that shot somebody else. Another thing you need to understand about what law enforcement officers get as information is it's really a game of telephone. It's what you're telling the dispatcher, the call intake person on the phone, who's then typing everything they can as quickly as they can into a computer, pressing enter, and then that goes to a dispatcher. And then the dispatcher is actually pushing that information out. And the only thing that she's pushing out is what's being typed as quickly as you're frantically explaining it to someone in a dark room on the other side of town. And that game of telephone can get mixed up pretty quickly. What law enforcement officers know is the information that they're given is generally wrong. And you're just going in knowing that somebody is hurt or something wrong is happening, but they know that they're going to have to get the information once they get there. And they're going to respond to you to protect themselves every time. So I'm going to go over a couple different scenarios, and hopefully we can take that idea of what we think we know and look at these different scenarios that I've created that I talk about in front of my CCW classes or my women's basic classes, all the way down to guys that tote guns and gals that tote guns every day, and they don't have that radio, they don't have that direct contact to the rest of the people that they're working with, and that changes the game quite a bit. So in this situation, we're going to talk numbers. I'm public schooled, so it's not going to be real difficult, so just go with me on this. And again, all these numbers can change. It's really just the idea of what I want you guys thinking about when we do this. So let's say we're at our favorite outdoor mall, and we're going up to the ATM. We turn around, and there he is, the monster with the machete. We make the decision to engage, and we shoot him. Everybody immediately thinks that what they're going to be doing is they're going to be calling 911, and they're going to let dispatch handle that problem. And that may be true, but with that 1,000 people, how many of those people are going to be making phone calls to 911? Because we've got that active shooter world, we've got that active shooter thing in our mind. A lot of those people are going to be dialing 911. Now, the way 911 phone calls work with cell phones is they just find 3 towers, 3 satellites, whatever, and it kind of finds where you are and it sends you to the nearest local dispatch center. And in California, it generally goes to CHP first. So the numbers, here's the numbers game. So let's say there's 1,000 people at the mall. Let's say 500 people get on their phone right now and start calling. Half of those people are going to call mom, they're going to call somebody. They're going to start panicking and they're just going to make the call. They're going to start calling people. They're going to start clogging up those towers. Next, let's say another half of those people actually start calling dispatch, and they see you, they see this guy Jerry in a black and white plaid shirt. He's standing at the ATM and he just executed somebody. He just shot somebody. They don't know how many shots they heard, but they're calling dispatch. They looked in the direction of the shootings and they see me holding a pistol. They put their head down, they run into the nearest store and they're calling 911. They're screaming. 250 people are going to call the local, or they're going to get connected to the local dispatcher. How many people, or how many dispatchers, how many call intake people do you think they're going to be waiting in line for?
What is up, guys? This is Luke with Executive Protection Lifestyle Group, Bravo Research Group. I'm good friends with Byron Rogers. We actually work together, and he asked me to do a truck video, basically kind of showing, he was like, are you at work? And I said, yeah, I'm at the office. And he's like, take your truck upstairs right now and do a truck dump. So just to kind of show, he wanted me to show you guys what I had in my truck. These are keys to my work vehicle. My work vehicle. I always have a spare set there. In here, I have trash. I have a Surefire headlamp. I have a couple headlamps just sort of always on me. They always come in handy. So Surefire, this is the rechargeable headlamp. I think it goes to 1,000 lumens. Thing's awesome. All right, the next door here, I always have these Hoppies lead wipes in here. Bug spray. I think I got 2 things of bug spray because the range that I go to has a lot of flies, and this stuff right here works awesome. This Picaden works awesome against flies. So a couple of those in there, and then these big combat wipes. I love these things. They're nice and big and thick, and actually you don't need like 15 of them to clean yourself with. So this is my competition rig for 3-gun. It's set up for 3-gun right now, and my rig lives in here because I never know when I'm gonna be able to hit the range. So I have a private range that I have access to, so I can go there anytime I want. So I just sort of leave all the stuff in here that I might need to get a decent practice in. This is cool. These are lockable storage containers, and this side is kind of where I keep all my firearms. In California, you got to keep your guns separate from your ammunition and storage, and this works as a storage for me. So most of my pistols are on my CCW. A couple are not. Like one of my competition guns, my limited gun, is not on my CCW currently because I didn't have it in my possession when I got my CCW. But most of my pistols are, so I don't worry as much about that. But my rifles and shotguns I do have to worry about. So what I'm carrying with me is not necessarily the most popular and not always what I have in here, but just get down to it. I have an AK-47. This is an AK built for me by my friend Kevin McCluskey. He's another executive protection guy. Some of you guys can look him up on here. He makes the best AK on the planet. He worked with Jim Fuller at Rifle Dynamics for years, and he knows how to build and tune an AK. So this is set up California compliant. Got my fin, my stock is locked, and I have a Surefire comp on the end of this with the Warden, just kind of help with the blast. And then I have the Surefire DF Scout Light, the dual fuel, and an Aimpoint T2.
So you think about this. What's our gun going to do, and how does it react? We picked this up there too. This is a great diorama. I love stuff like this because I'm kinesthetic, so I got to touch it, feel it, and like you see it and do it. You know, that's how I learn. Anyways, we talk about what the spread is going to be at distance. Okay, and if we're within that 3-yard period, our spread on average is where it's going to come out of the gun for the most part. Comes out of the gun back here, but it's going to, by the time it gets to that 1-yard mark away from the gun, it's going to spread out about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, give or take. Okay, once we get out another yard past that, now look how the spread starts to open up, and it goes on and on and on out to that 10-yard mark, and you can see what the patterning is going to be of the gun. Whether I'm at that 3-yard mark or I'm all the way out here at that 10-yard mark, on a normal human being, would you consider this being effective? 100%, right? But what if I'm able to take this effective range at 10 yards and I'm able to carry a range or a accuracy like this, or even more so like this or this out to 30 yards? That's where that flight control ammo comes into play, right? Now, at a 10-yard mark or a 20-yard mark, I'm going to have flight control accuracy that's going to be something along this line here. Yeah, so that's why understanding what ammo works good for your gun, stockpile it, right, and use that ammo, that's what you want to run. But no, they're all. That's why I'm telling you, they're all different. That's why I like to talk about ammo briefly in this class, and then show you this diagram here, because this is what a normal average double-odd buck spread would probably look like, right? Now, depending on the ammo, it's going to be bigger or smaller, and that's what you have to figure out what you like and what works tight for your gun. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to load. This has got 1R1. So you're going to shoot, reload, shoot. Okay. You're going to combat load 1, shoot. You're going to combat load a second one and shoot again. Here we go. Ready? We're going to load, shoot, reload, shoot. Stand by. Ready? Load. I've got impact to my arm and I can't use my arm, my left arm. Can I still run my gun? Absolutely. Can I still load my gun? Absolutely, right? So, a couple things we can do. One, arms down, I still got one round in the chamber. What I can do is bring my gun up and I can set it against something. Find something that I can wedge the gun against, and I can still use my sights, and I can get on target here. And if that's the case, I can click this off. This arm's toast. Here, round on target, okay? They bounce off of there, I don't care. That's fine. Now what? I'm in bolt lock. I can bring the gun up, plant it, get my good arm up, drop a round in there, cycle this, get it back up here, get this planted again, get back on target, and get impacts very easily, okay?
Boom, when it comes to the technology you use to protect your home, there's nothing better than Deep Sentinel. AI-driven, human-monitored technology that will keep you and your family safe for the same price you're paying for whatever Ring doorbell system you have. Check out Deep Sentinel. It's such an honor to join forces with these guys. They should be in every single house in the world. Get real-time Overwatch for you and your loved one. And for 10% off, depending on when you're watching this, don't forget to use code Byron at checkout. Boom! Quick shout out to our sponsor, Staccato. My first pistol sponsor. I've been sponsored by a lot of companies, right, over the years. But when it comes to pistol, that's my bread and butter. Pistol is something I believe in. You know, I'm a competitive shooter. You know, we're shooting anywhere from, 800 rounds a month type of thing, right? So Staccato, being what I believe, is one of, if not the most complete handguns you can put in your hand. It's got every component that a handgun could have, should have. They're actually extremely dependable now that they've made some changes, and these things are straight up tack drivers. If you're looking for a pistol that will do as much of the work for you as a piece of hardware can, obviously you have to have the marksmanship and all the different things, but different guns perform at different levels. And I want to say that Staccato is one of, by far, for sure, take it from a competitive shooter, we're shooting the highest volumes of rounds constantly right now. Not used to have a background guy, but like right now, when you go shoot, you're going to see certain brands. Staccato is one of, if not the highest performing firearm that is both CCW, duty ready, and also competitive ready. So I want to give them a shout out. If you guys are looking for a good handgun to build your skills on top of, go check out Staccato. Much love and respect.
Yo, if you enjoyed that episode and you like learning things like that, I want to encourage you to go to Protector Nation, build a profile, get in the Civilian Protector Project. This is where you can learn from these guys. Live Zoom calls, you can see the full modules that you just watched, and you can become part of a community. It's the first social media platform for protectors where we can get to know each other, we can network, we can learn together. We do live Zoom calls with different SMEs every single month. There's so much packed in there. I'm in there. It's an honor, it's a privilege. Looking forward to working together to make the world a safer place by helping good people to become more willing, capable, and prepared. Protector Nation, Civilian Protector Project, let's go.